Here's something that I recently thought that you should be doing, but now it's a good idea that you should not be doing this. So let's talk about that on the other side. So without any further ado, let's go. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is John from Flip It Ain't Easy. And as I mentioned on the other side, this one thing you should probably stop doing. And let me just apologize that this is something that I told you I thought was a good idea, and it turns out after listening to eBay, watching a podcast here and doing some reading there, that really it's not the best idea. Now what am I talking about? I'm talking about item specifics, and more specifically I'm talking about filling out the recommended or additional item specifics that are available in almost every eBay listing. Now that is not to say that I'm talking about the required item specifics. So there's really three different types of item specifics. You have the required, that you have to fill in item specifics for each one of those item specifics that are under required. Otherwise, your item will not get shown. Now, I don't know if it will list or not, and the reason why I'm not sure, I thought it was a thing that it wouldn't even let you list it, but I got to tell you guys, I was able to list an item the other day, and I had Archie over, and he got to see it, where I listed an item that didn't have any photos. So it was quite odd that eBay even allowed me to list the item. But that tells me that even if you don't have all the required item specifics entered in, you may still be able to run that listing. So make sure that all your item specifics are there for the required, because otherwise your item is not going to be visible in search. Now, you have your recommended, right? That's what eBay, here's some values for that type of item that eBay thinks are pertinent to what you're selling. And if you have the information, eBay thinks it's a good idea for you to enter that value in that listing. But if you don't have the information, simply don't spend the time looking for that item specific. Don't spend the time filling in NA or does not apply. And certainly don't guess, because it's not worth the INAD or putting the wrong value in, right? So what we want to do is make sure that the recommended and the additional item specifics, right, are only filled in if they're extremely important. This is where you got to use your judgment. Okay, if you're selling clothing, you have maybe the measurements of the sleeves, maybe you have the the different measurements on pants, that type of thing. Those factors you want to make sure are part of your listing, so that you're not getting emails, people asking you, what's the information. Of course, you're probably going to put that in your item description anyway, but we know that a lot of times people don't click on that link in the app to even look at the item description. I mean, you can find it easier on the computer, but if they're looking and buying your item from their phone, chances are they're not going to see that information. So if they're searching for it with the filters, that's where the item specifics comes in. So if they're filtering down, let's say they're looking for a Nike shirt, there's thousands of Nike shirts, and then they start filtering it down by color, by size, by type, that type of thing. Just make sure that the item specifics you're entering in for recommended and additional are really important. Otherwise, don't waste your time. Now, how do you know if one item specific's more important than another? That's a good question. And eBay will give you an approximation for that item specific, approximately how many requested searches, or how many times did your potential buyer use that filter, right, when they're searching for shirts or pants or whatever. How many times did the buyer utilize that particular item specific to help filter down the search results that are returned to them? So if you're dealing with an item specific that maybe has been looked at in the millions, well, maybe you want to take the time to make sure that's there. But if you only have an item specific that says that maybe has been used 500 times, then maybe that's not the best use of your time. But it's not the end all be all, guys. To me, it's more important to have a good title, a good set of photos for that listing. Of course, your gallery or the main photo has got to be your best photo of that item. a good quality item description that has keywords that your title doesn't cover. I think that's very important. And your price. That's something that you need to focus on. But spending time, maybe you're only doing 5 to 10 listings because you're trying to fill out every item specific, right? You're trying to be very thorough, and I commend you for that, but it's not the best use of your time. So go in, fill out the item specifics that you know off the top of your head. Oh, and by the way, if you do like I do and you piggyback off of another seller's previously sold listing, make sure that the information is correct, because a lot of times a seller that may have sold the item, but the information they put into any of the item specific fields could be invalid, and the last thing you want is an INAD for something you didn't even realize was there. So take the time just to scan the recommended and the additional item specifics. A lot of times sellers will put in, free shipping, or I don't even know how they get away with this one, but that is offering to pay for your tax or no tax on this item. I've seen it many times before, and it's like, wow, get that out of here. I don't want that as part of my listing, because then a buyer will call you on that, and then you're kind of stuck having to cover that expense because it's in your item specifics. Also, try to stay in with the values that are preloaded if you can, because that's what's going to come up as an option for the buyer to select when they're trying to filter down their items. So if you have blue, right, but it's really a turquoise item, and you type in turquoise, it's not going to filter out properly. So I try to find the closest one, or multicolor, that type of thing. But that's my information based on what I've read and some of the podcasts that I've come across. And I just want you to be able to utilize your time as well as you can, so that maybe you can get more listings done rather than just being stuck on this listing and you're going through and you're trying to find stuff that really isn't being searched for by the buyer. Now, a quick update on the Informed Consumers Act, right? We talked about this back in January, and it's something that I want you guys to know. The 27th of June is when this thing starts. Now, what is the Informed Consumers Act? Well, if you haven't watched my video, click after we're done here, go back and click on this link here, and it will take you to the topic at hand. But the Informed Consumers Act is an act that was put into play by the United States government, Congress, was signed into law, that basically says if you make so much as a seller on any platform, you are considered a retailer, a bigger seller, and you actually have to provide your address, your social security number, your phone number to eBay. Now, eBay will then display only the address that's provided to a buyer once they've bought your item. Now, the social security number, the phone number, that information is kept by eBay to verify that you're not some fly-by-night seller. They want to avoid the occurrences of a lot of counterfeits in the past have hit the site, and they want to just make sure that you are a legit seller. And by you providing that information, basically tells eBay that you are a legit seller. Now, if you sell over 200 items valued at $5,000 within a 12-month period, you are considered one of these sellers. Now, if you sell over $20,000 in merchandise, then that is also kind of a next level thing, where they are definitely going to need at least the photo ID from you as well, in addition to that other information. I think a lot of us have already provided that information anyway as part of the managed payments program, but these are things that Congress has been mandating the other sites to request. So eBay is already ahead of that. My only question was, if you have a P.O. box, right? How do you make sure that that is the address that is seen by the buyer, right? You don't want your home address shown to a buyer if you have a P.O. box. And you got to make sure that you're clicking, there's 5 places. When you go under, you see your name at the top left, you go under account settings, you click on that, and you'll see addresses that come down under My eBay. And you'll see 5 different places where eBay is asking you for your address. And the address, at least from the USA rep I spoke to, says it's your registration address is the one that they are required to share on invoices when a buyer purchases your item, right? They don't get that information until the item's purchased. But if you want your P.O. box displayed, you want to make sure you're updating that address with your P.O. box information. Otherwise, you're going to have your full address out for a buyer to see. Now, to me, it's not that big of a deal if you don't have a P.O. box, because your address is going to show up on your return label anyway. That's always been kind of my argument to this. They're going to be able to find your address. If they buy the item and they receive it, they're going to eventually see your address. So for me, it's not the end of the world, but I just wanted you guys to know. Now, if you can go in and ask for an exemption, meaning that your address is only, just the city and state is only going to be shown to the buyer and not your actual address, but you have to go in and request an exemption. Now, eBay has not provided us the means to do that yet. Sometime between now and launch date, the 27th of June, there's going to be something that eBay is going to send us. We send a request for just the city and state to be shown and not the whole address. And I guess, and this is really subjective, eBay's telling me, like, you got to answer your buyer's questions within a 24-hour period per business day. So if you get a question on a Friday, you'd better be answering it by Monday. And that is to qualify to have this exemption, you actually have to be replying to your buyers in a timely manner. And that's kind of the 24-hour thing I was telling you about. Really weird, really subjective. It just tells me that eBay does keep track of how long it takes you to contact your buyers, whether they publish that or not. Other sites like Mercari give you a badge for replying to your customers in a timely manner. So you need to start getting into the habit of replying to your buyers in a timely manner. It is being kept track of. And the last thing you want to do is not qualify for a little exemption like that and feel like, wow, my information is being shown to everyone, and it could have been prevented if I would have qualified for this exemption. So you have time. If you're slow at getting back to your buyers, you have time to fix that between now and June 27th. Get that worked on. Start answering your buyers' questions in a quicker manner, and you're going to qualify for that exemption once they put out the link to request it. And of course, I'll update you once I find that out, but it's not yet. It's going to be sometime down the road. What do you guys think? Comment down below. I want to know your thoughts on either the subject I talked about, the item specifics, or the Informed Consumers Act update. If you like the content on this channel, if you like this video, please hit that like button. But if you like the content on the channel, consider subscribing, and of course hit that notification bell so you can be notified the next time we make a video or when we go live. And we are going live today. Now, we're not going live at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 Eastern like we normally do, because we have a special guest, the Art of Resale, and I wanted to bring him on for so long. I'm glad that we're able to do that. I'm excited to have him on tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 Eastern. We'll have the Art of Resale on, and we're going to be talking about the focus I want to have is talking about the yard sales. This guy is great at his game. He's really good at, I like to think I'm pretty good too. I've gotten pretty good, but this guy is on his game, and I want to talk about yard sales because that's what's coming for most of us, right? Well, we already have it here in Vegas, but a lot of you guys are going to start having the weather that is going to allow for yard sales. But what a better topic than it is to talk about yard sales with yard sales on the horizon. And I think a lot of you might be excited to have that discussion. I'm sad that it's going to be late for some of you that are going to be like on the East Coast, 9 o'clock Eastern, and in the UK, I'm sorry. The only time I could have Art on, and honestly, it's going to be time well spent. And if you can't be with us for the live, check out the replay. But no matter how you watch it, make sure you watch it and give me your comments down below. Things like item specifics. It's part of your listing, and you want to make sure you're providing your buyer with a complete listing so that you rank higher in search, but don't waste your time with item specifics that really aren't necessary, and that's your recommended and additional item specifics. And once you save yourself that time, you'll be able to pass it along to maybe making more listings or getting more stuff done with your other work. But this is yet another example of how sometimes flipping ain't easy. And I want you guys to have an excellent rest of your day, and we will talk to you hopefully on the live, but if not, very soon.